Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Civic Exchange podcast, where policy meets community. The voice of Waterford drives progress and civic engagement. My name is Johnathon Wertheimer, and I am a candidate for Waterford Township Clerk.
And I'm Robin McGregor, candidate for Waterford Trustee.
And I'm Mary Craite, candidate for Waterford Township Supervisor.
And I'm Joseph Williams, candidate for Waterford Trustee.
And tonight, we're talking trash, aren't we?
Yes, the priority of trash.
I don't know if y'all remember, but a while back, the trash, the recycling, and for me, the worst one was yard waste. That just was not happening. How was it in y'all's neck of the woods?
Oh, we when we first switched over, we had the median in our apartment complex just completely lined with trash, with rats going in and out of it for about a week.
And because the election is getting so close, it seems that all of a sudden things are getting better. My question is, what happens after December 5th?
My question is, what happens to the callback? Because to me, customer service is important, and it is now 85 days, and I still haven't gotten my callback.
Have you also still memorized the little automatic message you get when you try to...
I have.
Yeah.
And sit on the phone for 90 minutes waiting for them to answer. And it states in the contract from the township that we won't have that issue. And I'm trying to figure out how that happened, because in the contract it says the township may fine them for not picking up your trash because of a complaint, or not having a complaint about not picking up, which would be $100 a day. The first 6 weeks, they were getting 600 to 700 calls a day, and yet nobody was fined $100 once. From a contractual perspective, why didn't we put shall in there? Because the attorney put this together. And why are we giving a business so much leeway? Because I'm sure the employees of the township aren't getting paid for not coming to work or not doing their job. So why are we letting a company come in that we hired not do their job?
It is an interesting conversation, and it was nice to see a town hall that Priority was welcomed in to do. I don't know if anyone listening was at the town hall, but it certainly was interesting. I know everyone here was there. I think you were there too, Joseph, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of that lovely town hall?
Oh, well, I went up there to speak twice. First was much nicer than the second time I went up. The first time I went up for a fact-finding mission, and then the second time I went up was to put the gentleman who decided to yell at all of us in his place. It was a show. Let's put it that way. It was quite a circus. But before we go into all that, I think we should probably preface what exactly we're talking about, and for everybody at home that doesn't know exactly
Good point.
what we're talking about here. So how long ago was it that we switched over from anybody could choose who they wanted to use for their garbage and the recycling to this single hauler?
So we are on coming down to the last year. In March, it would have come down to the last year of our contract.
And that's a 5-year contract?
With a 5-year contract, so it expires in March of 25. The issue was that didn't happen by the vote of the people. That contract was put in place under the township after it had been voted down for a single hauler time after time at the voting.
What was the contract before we got to single hauler? Does anybody know?
Your own. You could pick out who you wanted for your own garbage. If we had good coverage, they picked up waste, yard waste, recycling. It depended on if you shopped around or not and what you paid for it.
And does anybody know why the township decided they were going to move from choosing your own hauler to this single hauler?
They stated it was because they wanted less trucks on the residential roads. But the interesting piece about that is, I don't know why the township stuck their nose into that, Because when you talk to them about the roads, they turn around and say, we don't run the roads. You have to pay for the roads. So why are you worried about who goes up and down my road if you're not going to pay for it? Because there are some of the HSO or apartment complexes and condos that were mandating who their garbage pickup would be. But for residential, like subdivisions and that, it was up to us.
And it now gets charged to your taxes, right? If you don't pay your...
So under a single hauler ordinance, they can do that. If it's not a single hauler, you can't. But because it's under a single hauler, if you don't pay your garbage bill after a certain amount of time, it will go on to your property taxes. And then if that's not paid, it goes to the county. And so you have a problem.
Now, that was not enacted when it was choose your own, right? They could not charge it to your... So what legislation passed that allowed them to be able to do that?
There's supposed to be a state law if you only have a single hauler. So if we had an issue like we just did with priority, if you had 2 haulers in here and one broke down, they could go and help the other. But they keep saying there's some legislation in the state, which I have not found yet, that says that you need a single hauler in order to mandate it to be put on your taxes. My question is, why does it have to be mandated to be put on your taxes? Because if you're not getting your taxes or your garbage picked up, they can go after you as an individual. And that's what they should be doing. Because like right now, we had the poorest service for 6 months or for 4 months. And yet we had to pay the same amount of money regardless if they did their job well or not. We don't get a choice in if we want to change out to somebody else. But they have the choice of coming out and picking it up if they want to or not.
But the real problem became in July when the service wasn't being taken care of because the previous company didn't finish out their job. So when the new company took over, it became excuse after excuse. Oh, we were sold trucks that didn't work. We're running behind. We don't have enough employees. Then the problem became when the yard waste wasn't getting picked up, then the township had to use another source of taxpayers' dollars to pay a private company from the community, a private company to go around and pick up all of that yard waste.
Which to this date, I can't find where it went out for bid. With a municipality, you were supposed to put any work that is done by the municipality out for bid. And yet they got it. And because they were collecting it, they kept them doing it. And they may be a wonderful company, I don't know. But they also got Business of the Year. So I'm trying to figure out why the 7 people decide who can be your garbage people. Because again, even though Priority isn't doing a great job, the contract expires in March. So that means that December 20th, the new board goes into place. Either the township board is going to make that decision before anybody gets on that board, and we're going to have to live with it for as long as they choose that contract, or they're going to give us no time because there's not enough single haulers out there to take care of the issue, and we're going to have the same issue again. And they know that they can play any way they want to with this. And for me, the people of Waterford shouldn't have to deal with this, because if Priority is such a great company and doesn't have enough money to fix their trucks, why did they buy out the city of Livonia's contract 2 weeks ago for $38 million? They sat there and told us at the town hall that they were bringing the trucks that were from GFL back to our neighborhoods. We all had lift trucks where they would come in, lift up your garbage can, which is a 65-pound garbage can, and it would throw it into the container. Now they want manpower to lift 65 pounds into the old type garbage cans, and they're not paying their people well, and they're not going to hold up their end of the contract when they get hurt. Because my OSHA guidelines, those regular garbage cans did not weigh as much as these do, because everybody could have 1 or 2 or 3. they gave us a bigger garbage can because of the way it was lifted. So they're not taking care of their employees, because at that meeting they talked about how much money they put into GPS and cameras. Why do you need GPS and cameras on your trucks when you're not investing in tools that will save your employees back?
Right.
And from a safety perspective.
But are
What
you?
kind of insurance they have?
And I guess here's my thing. I've been talking all the way through about 3 keywords, which spell out ACT for Waterford residents, right? Where's the accountability in this? Whether I vote for the people on the board or not, whoever is on that board is accountable to the Waterford residents, right?
Absolutely.
Where is the communication, and where is the transparency? Right now, the citizens have found out more from Waterford Everything and Waterford Matters. Facebook should not be the key source of any important communication for the township.
Absolutely. They should be communicating directly with everybody. And a lot of their meetings have been behind closed doors about this. Is that right?
All of them have, because when they did this and Brain got the composting piece, all of a sudden they were doing it. We've gone to every township workshop and their board meetings. It was never discussed or brought up. When I sat on the school board, every bid came in front of the board at the meeting. I'm still trying to figure out from our township perspective where these bids are going into, because the clerk's office seems to have them, and I don't know when they vote on them legally, because it's not in the open, and it's not done on Open Meetings Act. It's not part of it. So who's making these decisions? And why are they making those decisions?
And why is it behind a closed door without residents being able to hear what's being talked about?
Or know who the contractors are? Because when they did this garbage bid, they did not allow that to happen in front of people. It was done in a closed door session.
Yeah, we need to bring transparency back to Waterford. That needs to be number one.
And I understand attorney-client privilege. I totally understand that. Working for the school district, being a union member, I get all that. But the citizens in this community have a right to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah. First and foremost, the Waterford Board works for us, or not the other way around. So how many meetings has the township hosted talking about this?
In terms of the town hall, it was just the one,
Was it just the one?
as far as I can tell. Yeah.
Yes, there were many when this came to light that they were thinking of doing it. There were 6, because they kept saying, "We'll take care of this. We'll take care of this," till they ran people they wanted it to go so long that people would stop coming.
Okay.
And you've seen that with the different aspects that we have going on now. You know, it's like when we ask about the purging of the votes. Kim Marquis like, "Oh, I was told by the attorney." When we asked the attorney said we told her 1 vote, not 1,000.
That's a big difference.
Yes. And that's why we need new people on the board to at least to communicate with what we have. Transparency is one thing, but I may not like everything you say, but tell me what's going on.
Well, one thing they forget, over half of the community is over 55 years old. Not everybody has even the internet. So if you say, "Oh, go ahead and sign up for emails, sign up for text alerts," there are many people, my parents who are 88 and almost dad will be 91 this week, they don't use their phones for texting. They have a really hard time with emails and the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And
You still have landline.
how are our senior citizens, whether they're home alone or not, how are they getting their information? How do they even know about trying to set up an account for a company? Where is the support for people who don't have the internet or who just need that help?
What has your parents' experience with the GFL to priority waste situation been?
Oh, my dad was so angry he was calling the township because his garbage wasn't picked up. And previously, under the GFL contract, they weren't having problems with the service. But the whole process of when you put a contract in place, there has to be protections for the citizen. I know in West Bloomfield, they had a $1.5 million performance bond. I haven't found that yet for Waterford. I don't know if there was one. If there is, I haven't found it yet. So because that performance bond was put into place, West Bloomfield could go after the company that didn't uphold their end of the contract.
Or fine them for anything that they didn't do, where Waterford has told us that they're in negotiation with getting us money. But when you call priority, they say absolutely not. We are not giving anybody any refunds, any credits, period. And because it is a recorded line, they should be able, as a township, to hear that. But we're not getting that feedback. So there's backdoor deals going on where they're smiling at us and saying, yes, Johnathon, we're going to give you $25 back for this. And then it's like, ha ha, fool, you're not getting anything. But pay your bill.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing I'm hearing over and over from Waterford residents is that they understand, what Priority took over this contract. They sent out their people in April to assess the GFL fleet. What they ended up getting in July was not what they promised, and they could go to litigation, I suppose, not legal advice, for failure to deliver what was assessed in April. But what I hear over and over from everyone in Waterford, the number one thing is, we weren't getting the service. Why are we paying for the service we're not getting? And is there some type of reimbursement there? And then, like you said, Robin, it's only negotiations.
Well, and when you had your own hauler, if they weren't upholding their end of the deal, you could cancel the service and go get another one. You don't have that option when it's a single hauler.
Especially when it's going straight to your taxes.
So
and
because
you could lose your house
it's
if
a
you don't
single
pay.
hauler under a single hauler ordinance under the township, then the township has to be accountable to the people because they're the ones that put this in place.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have your own garbage and you picked out who your distributor is and who's going to pick it up and how much you want to pay for it, that's your personal choice. It's just like if I want to have a lawn service or if I want to pick up or do my own lawn service. If some people want a single hauler, offer them both. If we have enough to get you a discount for this, great. If not, those people that want to get their own can. But we were told absolutely not. This is what we're going to do. Why is it so important for our township to tell us what we need to have and what we need to do? If I'm smart enough to buy my house and pay my taxes, why do I need you to tell me who's my garbage pickup?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the big confusions is we are a township. We're not a city. In a city, all of that is taken care of and it's part of your property taxes. In a township, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things here that I have always found so interesting is just the whole process of this. Like, we're getting it picked up the week before, and then it just quit the next week.
Right.
And somehow it's the trucks and the employees that weren't working. What happened in the week before the transfer so that it didn't work the following week when it was transferred over? That's the part that I've always been so curious about.
Well, and I guess one of the big things that I'm concerned about is we have all these monopolies now with garbage services. So we don't even have the small companies anymore for people to choose from. But it's becoming one company after another, buying this company out, selling off their commercial they'll keep the commercial, but they'll sell off the residential. And how many garbage companies are we left with?
I'm always a fan of breaking up the monopoly. The free market only works when there are multiple competing companies. Yes. And I think what we've learned from this whole situation, not just here in Waterford, because it was 5 counties that switched from GFL to Priority, but we learned what can happen when it is a firm monopoly.
700,000 residential customers.
Yeah. And so I think, for me personally, what I would like to see, and I don't necessarily know how this works, certainly would love to hear from any listeners on this. I would love some type of hybrid model between one hauler and everyone can do everything they want. Because I hear from a ton of our friends and neighbors out in Waterford who are like, I didn't like it before because I had 3 different garbage trucks going down my road every single day. And then I also hear from residents who are like, well, my garbage wasn't picked up for 4 months. And I know when I was out walking around the neighborhoods and the breeze would hit just right and you would smell nothing but hot garbage in July and August.
The flies were my favorite with all the little rodents that I had never knew of before.
I didn't know how putrid yard waste could smell until so my yard waste bin has these holes drilled on the side of it from the previous homeowner. Maybe it's to help drain out the water. I don't know. But when I moved this can after God knows how long it had been out, there was some liquid that dripped out of the bottom of it. I have never seen flies congregate in such a large number so quickly as when that liquid started to drain out, and the smell was... I've never smelled anything like that.
The yard waste bags as well were disintegrating.
Yeah.
So then you got rain on top of that, and the yard waste is now on the roads, and there was nobody to clean it up unless the homeowners were doing that.
And then they would clean it up, and then it still would not be picked up, and they would go and move the bag, and it would rip again. They would have to do it the next week.
And remember, we also have an ordinance that you can't have your garbage cans out for more than
24 hours.
24 hours in the township, but you were supposed to leave it out until it got picked up. So people were leaving it out week after week. Many subdivisions went 3 weeks in July without garbage service.
And the best part is we were breaking our own ordinances by being mandated to go with a company that they chose for us and that they wrote. So they're being hypocritical. You can't write an ordinance saying you can't leave your garbage out and then choose a company that isn't going to do their job.
Our co-star is over on the side.
I was going to say, for everybody who's watching or listening at home and wondering why we are smiling and laughing at inappropriate times, it's because the most beautiful boy in the world is taking all the Kleenex out of the Kleenex box and making a nest. So
He's like, going to take another one out.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
He talked about me.
You're going to share.
How have you been seeing the service lately? For me, it seems to be timely.
Yeah, it's timely. The election's in 2 or 3 weeks. It's very timely.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary, have you been keeping track of the vehicle numbers like you were asked at the town hall?
I was asked at the town hall by the gentleman that was representing Priority if I was actually going out documenting all the trucks that we had, because we asked about where our trucks were. Priority said we got all of our trucks back, and I said, well, I don't agree with that because we don't have any of the armed trucks back, right? We had all the ones with the lift arms. And he asked me if I had actually been going out around the township checking all of the vehicle numbers. I still don't have my truck back on my street with the lift arm. And what you're putting your employees through, having to lift all that garbage, and then the heavy wet yard waste bags.
Well, during that meeting lasted what, about an hour and a half, 2 hours?
2.5.
2.5 hours. And for the first 2 hours, we had the gentleman that was sitting behind up there with them, gentleman number 1, we'll say.
And are you talking about our surprise guest that happened? Well, not for this podcast, but the surprise guest at the town hall that just came out of nowhere.
The PR person out of
PR
nowhere.
guy.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a moment. That's gentleman number 2. But gentleman number 1 that was sitting up there, his name was like Dan or Bob or something basic. I got up there and I asked him, because I'm more of a question asker than a comment maker. You get much more information that way. And I asked, I asked, So you had all of these trucks working for all of, because first I asked about Bloomfield Hills because they only were gone 2 weeks before they had all their services back. And I asked what made them a higher priority and us a lower priority. And they said it wasn't so much about being a priority, but it was just because we had less trucks that were working. So they took all of our
choice
trucks.
of words there, though.
Wasn't it? So they took all of our trucks, and then we were getting them back at the same time, but it was going to be the same trucks. It wasn't going to be any other trucks from anybody else. And it wasn't until gentleman number 2 came up at the end of the second hour when he started to get up and yell at all of us and tell us that shame on us for asking questions and
We needed
not
to be more
following.
patient with the company.
Yeah. And just completely invalidated everything that gentleman 1 said is for that first 2 hours, basically just wasting our time because he just took everything the first man said and just threw it out the window. So instead of saying that we were getting the same trucks, he turned around and told us that we were getting different trucks and they were coming back to us at whatever order that they were coming back to, and just admitted they lied the whole time.
But they also blamed every one of the employees, which is interesting. In April, they had them inspected. July 1st is when they took over the contract. Why wouldn't you have every truck inspected 30 days prior?
Mm-hmm.
And as a CDL driver myself, I have to do a pre-trip, which is before I go out, and a post-trip after I'm done with it to note anything that's wrong with that vehicle. And yet they thought that it was okay that they had all these trucks going to over 5 states to get fixed, which it could have been the hydraulic lifts and things like that. But if they were that bad that they could not use them on the road, that meant that there was something mechanical wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And if that CDL driver had not put down something that was wrong with that, they could have lost their license.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody went out and not checked it and didn't do anything with it, their stories about how the employees were the worst that they have ever had. For me, through GFL, I had the same people that did my garbage. Great people. I appreciated them. They were always kind to me. I always made sure they had something to drink. They just good people. Because doing garbage isn't easy.
No, it's not.
And
they deserve every dollar they make.
Yes, and we didn't have one truck coming up and down our street. Because if you had compost, you had recycling, and you had garbage, I had 3 trucks, and then I had other trucks coming up and down to see if they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was more than a few trucks coming down my street every week when we had garbage with GFL. I have more than that with Priority now, and those people they're trying to work as hard as they can. But I don't believe that when you put a GPS locator on your truck, which is a very expensive unit on a commercial vehicle, and cameras to watch your employees,
You're more worried about
you're worried about the garbage being picked up. You're worried about something happening and you being liable for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, if your trucks are working, we're getting all of our trash taken care of the day before. How did all of our trucks break the next day?
Correct.
Yeah, it's just common sense. It's ridiculous.
Well, but again, that's a contract between 2 companies, right? So that contract was between GFL and Priority, and the Waterford residents are the ones who suffered. Whether it was a breach of contract, whatever happened with those vehicles, the Waterford residents should not have suffered because their contract was a problem.
And I think, Robin, you were talking about this a little bit. It really needs a very fine point that the employees of Priority were doing the best they can with what they had. I absolutely feel for them. What I was thinking when my trash wasn't getting picked up was, oh my God, these poor employees who are trying to get all this picked up. So I really feel for them, and I know everyone up here feels for them. But we have to take a quick little break here. And we will be right back. And we are back. We had a great conversation on garbage pickup or lack thereof. But something we touched up on ever so briefly was what it was like to walk through Waterford in the height of the garbage issue. And so that got me thinking, maybe we should touch up on walkability here in Waterford. Because I know I'm hitting a lot of doors these days, saying hi to friends and neighbors. And one thing I tend to notice is the lack of sidewalks, or where the sidewalks are, they old and busted is the long and the short of it. But what have y'all seen in Waterford, sidewalk wise?
Oh, I get a lot of complaints about our sidewalks, especially from people who are handicapped that rely on the sidewalks to get down the street to go get their groceries, because a lot of people don't have cars in Waterford and rely on their own mobility to survive. And when you have to rely on a wheelchair or a walker or anything else and you don't have a sidewalk, it's really hard to get somewhere to get your groceries, because not only do you have to get there, but now you have to get your groceries home. And that's almost impossible here in Waterford.
Quick shout out to Oakland County with the regional transit plan,
Yes.
helping people get to where they need to go, because like you said, not everyone does have a car. But on the individuals who are differently abled conversation, one thing that really bothers me when I'm walking down a sidewalk in Waterford, where there is one, it doesn't always connect to the road. So you'll get to an intersection where you're hoping that there is a sidewalk to continue on, and it just turns with the property that it's on, and there is just a patch of grass. And half the time, you can see where everyone is just walking through. You can see where the little bike trail. Yeah, and every time I see someone with a stroller, I see a lot of strollers. I'm like, good for you for getting through there, but this is crazy. Why aren't they connected to the road? And I think a lot of it would probably come down to the cost associated. But there's always ways that, as the Chief of Staff for State Rep Brenda Carter, one of the things we learn how to do is how to work with different levels of government. So from a township perspective, working with the county, working with the state, working with the feds, maybe a private donor, to help fund some of these projects. And I know, Joe, you had some ideas.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my main things of my campaign, actually, is trying to get some mobility and sidewalks here in the township. There are many organizations that are willing to help you, statewide, nationwide, as well as you said, personal donors. It might take a little longer instead of having all the taxpayers do it here, and it might be a little harder of a road to go, but there's no reason not to try. Our community is too important, and the only way you have a community is for your community to access your community. Without that, we don't have much. I think that we're just able bodies. And
Well, on the voter perspective of that, didn't there used to be a millage for this?
There was in the 1980s, and sorry if I'm dating myself, there was a sidewalk millage.
Oh, how were the sidewalks in the 80s?
There were none.
Oh, we had a sidewalk millage with no sidewalks.
Well,
No, we didn't have any sidewalks. That's what
Or the
all
millage.
these the blacktop areas, that's what the millage paid for. That's the only thing we did have.
But once the millage went away, there was no plan for maintenance, and we're milled out in Waterford. So you can't keep going back to the citizens saying, we need more tax money, we need this millage, we need this millage, we need this, and keep raising everybody's taxes, because you're going to tax people right out of their homes. You will. Our senior citizens that are on fixed
And
income.
that's a big fear already, that's everybody's saying.
Our young families. But if you think about the day that we were on the walk for Meals on Wheels, right on Pontiac Lake Road,
That
there's
was so
blacktop
frustrating.
between the Leggett Senior Center, which the township, as of January 1, the township will own the senior center, and going all the way down to Myers. There were a few people walking with us that had walkers, and it was hard for them to get through that area. So if you're in a walker, if you're in a wheelchair, we have to make those sidewalks accessible. A young family walking with a stroller, and you're bumping, and you don't want it to be dangerous for our citizens.
It's like Stepanski. We just built this $78 million school. And in the beginning, before they tore it down, as you were going down Hatchery, on the north side, you had sidewalks going from across at Guido's, going across Airport Road, and going down. Well, the school district decided that We didn't need sidewalks there anymore. So it has, as you come in, you have a sidewalk. You have like a little T, because now the little ones that are in preschool should go on Airport Road, and that's the only sidewalks there. So the school district took out the whole sidewalk. There's no sidewalk across the street, so if anybody's handicapped, they now have no accessibility to get to the sidewalk that's on the other side of Stepanski. And if a kid is coming out with their parents, there is no place for them to go. And on the other side, they didn't put sidewalks in there either. So they didn't even take in consideration of putting the sidewalks in. And you can't blame the code enforcement, because schools and churches don't have to follow the same ordinances as the rest of us. And the way I found that out is because I called and complained about it. And there is no, if somebody is in a wheelchair, there is no lip for in between the road for you to dip down in between their curbs. There's nothing there. There's no braille there. How do you spend $78 million of the public's money and build a preschool for 4-year-olds and not make it walkable?
And that actually gets to something I've been noticing even outside of like the Stepanski situation. A lot of these newer developments are where I can see the homes are newer, and I'm not seeing sidewalks. Or there's a sidewalk on one side of the street, which, but there's not one on the other side, and it's just so confusing. And sometimes, we don't necessarily have it out by Newberry. Or we have a really weird situation on Clintonville, where there's a sidewalk part of the way, but then once you get certainly past Newberry and right around Newberry, there's up the road there is like a little market, but you can see the entire bike trail that people have made getting from about where Newberry is north, and it's just crazy. But like, we're not putting in sidewalks when we have some of these newer housing complexes, or I shouldn't say housing complexes, it's more of like housing developments going in single family homes.
Yeah, because there's a new one that just opened in the last year. They only have sidewalks on it would be the west side, nothing on the east side. So the new houses on that side would be responsible for replacing the sidewalks, but the people on the other side are not. How do you do that? And they're not detached condos. And how did that pass an ordinance? It's in Waterford. It states that every new build is supposed to have sidewalk accessibility. But how did that get built? And how did it pass?
Well, and the other issue when it comes to sidewalks, and this is something that we have at the Leggett campus too, where we have that, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a raised...
It's the overcross.
For the road. It's how do you get across the road? And so if you're on a smaller street, a residential area, yeah, I can understand you don't need the whole Leggett apparatus. But on these busier roads, you got to be able to get from one side of the street to the other without playing a very dangerous game of Frogger. Mm-hmm. It all falls into that same walkability issue.
Right. But in my neighborhood, I have a gentleman down the street that's in a wheelchair, motorized one. But as he's trying to go down the sidewalks, which we have in our neighborhood, they're so up and down where the sidewalk has been upheaved by the trees that it's very difficult to get them not going down over it, but to go up over those. And I've seen people trip on the sidewalks, and it's very concerning because then the township can be liable if somebody is getting hurt.
But the sidewalk in front of your house is your responsibility, not the township's. That's why I'm very concerned with the fact that the $1 million in ARPA funds are being replaced, like on M59 in front of houses. If you have to pay for your sidewalks to be replaced, why doesn't M59 have to pay for their sidewalks to be replaced? Why are we spending that $1 million in ARPA funds in replacing their sidewalks instead of putting in new sidewalks for more walkability for our community? Or they're also putting in skirts on driveways in that same area.
Right.
Well, it also is kind of getting into a little less on walkability, but it's in the roads, where we have countless roads in this community where I'm driving down it going, oh, I didn't realize we had a dirt road here. And then I take another look at it and can see where the asphalt has become powderized. Like Donaldson is a really bad one. Right around where Donaldson Elementary is.
Oh, that's by Tony's. Isn't it Donaldson? Yeah, that's Donaldson over there.
Right.
Yeah, that's by Tony's house.
But one of the things that I found as we're out walking is there's many neighborhoods that are not safe. They weren't safe for us to be walking as we're out knocking doors, talking to people multiple times in the neighborhoods off of Castle Elizabeth.
Where you were tripping in
I was
the
tripping
rut.
because you were in a rut, but there was no sidewalk to walk down. So if I couldn't do it safely, how are the people that live on that street doing that? Young families, senior citizens.
Children.
It's not safe.
And the other thing that I've seen too, I can't remember the street off the top of my head, but they'll actually paint it. So a lot of residential streets, they don't have the paint for, it's not the busiest road in the world. But every now and then I'll see this lovely, where they have that white strip, and then you get about an inch of asphalt. And I'm like, well, that's not terribly helpful for anybody. Oh, it was where I was just at today, but I forget what the street is called. But yeah, it's not enough room. And I know when I was walking today, it was I was standing a good yard into people's driveways when cars were coming by me, because there was nowhere for me to go other than onto the private property owner's driveway.
And a lot of those streets you can't see ahead because we have a lot of twists and turns to get around lakes here. So you have very little warning when you come around somebody.
And the hills, up and down, twist and turn.
So you come around there, you got about a quick second before you know you're going to hit somebody or not if they're walking in the street because there's nowhere else for them to walk.
But along with walkability, we also have the one thing that is always interesting for me is parking. Trying to find a place to park if you wanted to go for a walk, which I always find difficult because I don't like parking in front of people's houses if I wanted to walk around their neighborhood, for example. So or if I wanted to go patronize a business, it's all strip malls, which is interesting. So I go and I park at the strip mall in front of Aldi, or the parking lot where Aldi's at, for example, off 59. And I can go to Aldi, which is great. Maybe I go to the gym after. But it would be nice if I could find a place to park and go from the library, for example, or a bookstore to the coffee shop to a grocery store without it being a strip mall. I like it where I can do all of that and have a nice stroll in a downtown area, which I do believe is in the master plan, right, Robin?
Yes, it is. And it's interesting because my daughter lives in a little town. It's called Phoenixville in Pennsylvania. It was an old steel town. And 20 years ago, it was like Pontiac, Detroit, Saginaw. It was lost. They couldn't sell houses there. Now the houses are going as fast as they go up for sale. But that downtown area, I can walk with my daughter, with her dogs. We can walk downtown. They have a area where there's restaurants. They block off the downtown roads. They have restaurants open in the street in the summertime. They do festivals all year long. They bring in Santa in the mayor, and they do Christmas carols. They have some of the silliest things, but like bed races. They have a burning phoenix. That community is thriving, and young people are flocking to be there. She can walk to her grocery store. She can go to the pet store. She can go get coffee. She can go to her neighbor's house. They have a park. They have an amphitheater. It's beautiful. And the people, I know more of her neighbors than I know most of the neighbors in my community here, and I've lived here 40 years, because everybody talks to each other. And that's what a downtown brings, and that's what walkability brings, is your community together and has people believe in each other and trust each other. And kids know who this person is, if that's a good person. If you need to be safe, you can run to that person. They know who the police department is. They know who the fireman is. That's what walkability does for us. And that downtown piece, like you talked with the parking garage, yes, they have one of those there too.
And I mean, it's not just the community you mentioned. I mean, Detroit has seen this remarkable transition. I was on the Riverwalk the other week with I was a host for a member of the Japanese delegation who was visiting the state from Kusatsu, some international relations there. Pontiac last year got the largest single district appropriation in the state of Michigan, totaling right around $55 million, which is going to just completely transform the downtown. They're breaking the Woodward Loop. It is remarkable what Pontiac's up to. And we need to capture some of that energy.
Yes, we do.
Some of that energy we have going on all around the state of Michigan, bringing it right here to Waterford. So that way we can have those similar things, where we can walk around, enjoy either a night out or some trails. I would love to see that portion of the OCC campus. Love to see that connected up to Hess Hathaway. Mm-hmm. Keep that all nice and natural. Making sure our portions over just all of our trailheads, making sure that they get the proper attention, the funding that they need from the township, making sure it's a budget item priority.
Well, and we have the Clinton River for kayaking right through Waterford, right? But to make sure that that's all accessible all the way through, so that imagine being able to put your kayak on the side somewhere and walk to the coffee shop, have a cup of coffee and get back in your kayak and go. So many possibilities.
I am totally obsessed with the Clinton River concept, because where my dad used to live, they have the Alcona River. They have this international Alcona River race every year or so. And so what they did is they installed these canoe, it's a canoe launch. And I'm like, we can have that. We can have nice things.
And that could be an entrepreneur for a young person that is in college, showing them how to build their business and having that at every area of where the Clinton River comes out, and showing them how to be a part of the community in a business sense.
It can be so many things. One thing I see a lot at the Drayton Plains Nature Preserve are old Eagle Scout projects. Yeah. And it brings a smile to my face when I see, in 1990, this Eagle Scout built this bridge. And in 2014, this Eagle Scout came in and built this section of planking. And
Devin and Cass Harris. Yes. Know a few of them.
But that's another thing, that it's walkability, or being able to use some of our trails. It allows the community to really come together and be what we want it to be.
Making it a place where people are welcomed and want to make a difference, because if you can, as you're getting older, our community is getting older. You need to walk. You need to make a difference in your physical fitness. It's also better for cognitive thinking. So you need to be out there and walking. But if you're afraid of the sidewalks, you're not going to do it as much. Like for me, the first 4 houses in our subdivision don't have sidewalks. When I had my other dog, his name was Max, I would literally take him over to the church because I wanted someplace I could literally walk him all the way around it, where I can't do that in the front of my subdivision. The builder at that time didn't do it. But if they're building new places and there's not walkability for them, why not? Because it's not just for people, it's for people taking care of their 4-legged babies. Mm-hmm. And we need them to be out and about and to socialize, because in Waterford, we don't have a dog park. We have a state park that is technically in White Lake. It's not in Waterford. So what do we have for our 4-legged kids?
it impacts the health of the whole community, whether you're walking to get healthy, walking so that your kids get in the habit of it, trying to get them started on those healthy habits. If you're looking to make life changes, I mean, a lot of it too, I noticed a lot of the walkability issue during COVID when we didn't have much else to do other than walk around at the end of the day and then, try not to run into anyone else who had the same idea. But it really, it impacts so many different areas in the community that people don't always think about right off the top of your mind. Just being able to get out, walk around, try that restaurant that you never noticed before because you took a left instead of a right. It's just something I think we really need to be prioritizing as a township.
And it will bring the community together also. Pokemon. Little things like that. I know that game was silly and I never did it. But I watched people. I would go with my daughter to some place and meet the most interesting people. Because as parents, we were taking these kids out to, you had to be at the Hess Hathaway entrance, or you had to be at the historical place.
A gym battle or a ring battle, probably.
Yes, something. I never understood the game, but it helped people come together and talk to each other.
I didn't really understand the whole game, but let me tell you, if you know Pokemon and you know who Charizard and Nidoking and Nidoqueen are, you just knew, and people are out at the nature center collecting Pokeball. They're at a Pokestop.
Oh, people were passing by each other like, Charizard over there, Charizard over there.
Yes. But it was the walkability because people were out.
Then kids are outside. Oh my gosh, instead of sitting in the house playing on their computer, playing a video game.
Oh God, let's go back to 2016 when they come out.
They're out in the fresh air talking.
I love how all the Pokemon being mentioned are the OG Pokemon characters.
Well,
Gen 1 for life.
There's another nerdy game, and I don't know the name. What was the name of it that Hunter's doing?
Oh, Magic?
Yes.
Magic the
I
Gathering.
never knew anything. See, I didn't know anything about it.
I can tell who the nerds are.
I've got a Black Lotus.
But those are people that will go out and play. It's like chess. They are going to make a difference, and other people are going to watch them as they play. So, and it's not that it's bad, but this is walkability brings people together. And I would rather see somebody playing a board game or playing with cards than playing on a computer.
Oh, yeah.
Computers are necessary, but I don't.
Kind of taking over the world.
Well, it's funny because if I start playing my game on my phone, it becomes addictive, and I'm sitting in the same place and not moving.
Oh, yeah. 2 hours later, you're like, what the hell did I just do?
Right. And with card games and being outside and being around other people, it makes you be social. It makes you be a part of the community.
Your brain to grow.
Yes. And that's what we need.
All right. Well, we're starting to wind down here, and I thought it would be fun to play a little game.
Wind it up.
Shh.
So the first half of our segment was all about trash. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions about trash.
What do we win?
Ooh, that's a good question. What do we win?
You get garbage.
The loser has to
You
take
get
out
a
the
new
other people's garbage.
recycling bin.
You get to go to the township board meeting and listen to them. You garbage.
So, let's see. How many pounds of trash does the average American generate per day?
25 pounds.
How much
What are you doing a day?
in a day? Wow.
I have my little mascot around here. Did you see what he just did?
I would say 3 to 5 pounds a day.
I'll go 5.
Jonathan, 4.9 pounds of trash per day.
Good job. Good job, Jonathan.
How many water bottles do Americans throw away every day? Altogether,
Oh, like as a country?
as a country.
1 billion.
Um,
I'm over guessing. I can tell by his face.
definitely something we need to recycle more. A lot of people don't. I'm gonna say 5 billion.
I'm going to say 500,000 a day.
60 million plastic water bottles are thrown away every day.
Well, I'm so happy I was over.
Yes, me too.
How many aluminum cans are discarded every year?
Every year in
I'm
the
going to go with
United
a
States.
billion again.
I'm going to go with $1.5 billion a year.
I was really off last time. I'm gonna do the prices right. 1.6 billion.
I thought you were going to go 1.1.
50 billion aluminum cans are discarded every year.
Woo! I finally got one right.
Well,
Wow.
Let's see. How much junk mail do? Oh, sorry. Let me start. How many pieces of junk mail are delivered annually to Americans?
God, there's what 350 million Americans.
I would say,
365 days a year.
yeah, yeah, at least 500,000.
I out of everyone, I would. Well, if you're in per year, it's got to be like 10 million.
I'd say it's got to be more than that. My mom and dad get anywhere from 10 to 15 a day.
All way.
I'm going to go with like 2 billion pieces a year.
You're still way under.
Way
At
under.
2 billion,
At
she's
2
on
billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
50 billion.
Wow, that's a lot of junk.
50
Perfect. 50 billion.
a year.
Yep.
Wow, what a waste of trees.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay, this is for the moms. An infant will go through how many disposable diapers by the time they are toilet trained?
I would say 500,000.
Not having children. My aunt changed a dog's diaper once, but that's a different story. I will go between being toilet trained. I don't know.
Infant to
that's
toilet trained. How many diapers will they wear?
Assuming
Depends on how lazy.
3 a day times 360.
3 a day?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a you have a good
Baby has a rash.
right?
Your baby has severe diaper rash.
My age.
Remind me not to let you babysit.
You're gonna do that by the morning.
Okay, so maybe
I'll
it's a
say
couple more.
25,000.
50,000.
8,000.
Oh,
Not bad. I thought it would be a lot more actually.
Then I was going to say that baby must be potty trained pretty quick.
Right? How many years does it take for one glass bottle to decompose in a landfill?
oh wow.
100?
I would.
I don't know that it would, because
Yeah,
if you
sand.
go walking even down the river by the nature center, we have found bottles from as early as 1910. So how
Yeah, it's got to break and then get
Well, yeah, it
slowly
would have-
pulverized over time. I mean, it would break down, but like what, 1,000 years?
1 million years.
Okay.
Wow, then we don't need to do that again, do we? How about plastic? How long does it take for plastic, I wonder?
Ooh, let's see if
Does
that's on
it?
here. How about plastic bags? Americans use how many plastic bags per year?
50 million.
Say 50 million.
That seems like a lot. Wait, there's 300 there. Okay. That would be way under, wouldn't it?
That would be. That would be
300,000. Yeah.
probably 5 billion a year.
way higher.
Way higher.
10 billion.
Keep going.
Except in
Last time I
California, where
guessed
they
it was
actually got
50
smart
billion.
and they've put a ban on all
going.
those plastic bags now.
It's 100 billion plastic bags per year, which requires 12 million barrels of oil to manufacture.
And we wonder where they're going to be, when they're thinking of their carbon footprint. We don't have to worry about that if they're using plastic bags, do we?
Aldi, reusable bags, or just take your reusable bags anywhere you shop.
How many active landfills are there?
Too many.
And for a bonus question, how many old ones are there that are no longer in use?
That wouldn't sounds like it would be a scarier number.
Yeah.
I know I have one behind my house over that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, active. There's got to be what, at least country? So 20,000?
3,000 active landfills, 10,000 ones no longer in use.
Wow.
I am horrible at this game.
Okay, let's find one more. Okay, plastic waste. Here we go. Last one.
Yep. Almost out of time,
Oh, we
buddy.
got how much plastic waste does the U.S. produce annually?
So this is including plastic bags
And plastic water bottles.
and plastic everything. And so is this in tons? Or is
In tons, yes. In metric tons.
Metric tons.
20 million. Billion. Billion.
You're close to the first time.
Million? Okay.
Oh,
25 million metric tons.
I'll do 40 million.
42 million metric tons.
Good job.
Wow.
More than any other country in the world.
Oh, wait, that was just us?
That was just us.
Oh, okay.
Just us.
Wow.
So it looks like we're just about out of time, guys. So
Yeah. So why don't we each sign off again, and then we will
remember, we have to do subscribe.
subscribe, like, and share.
Yes, Jonathan, you must share.
I was watching
You
it
must
come across
share.
Jonathan's face. He's like, yes, yes, yes.
And you are?
I am Johnathon Wertheimer, candidate for Township Clerk. Thank you for watching or listening.
I'm Rob McGregor, running for Township Trustee.
I'm Mary Craite, candidate for Waterford Township Supervisor.
And I'm Joseph Williams, running for Waterford Trustee. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. And don't forget to leave a like in the comments section and tell us what you want to hear. We hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.